Do you know where to vote, or how to get an absentee ballot? Stay tuned and you'll learn on Real Possibilities. I am so excited to be here. I think I'm excited to be here. I mean, you all have, there's so much going on with voter engagement, voter rights, the election. But I want to first say congratulations to all of you and all the clerks out there for what you have endured these last 2 years. I mean, just the audits and the number of recounts and the number of people who've scrutinized the voting process. And it's come out perfect, one of the best ever. So that is absolutely due to the hard work and the protocols that have been put in place by clerks all over the state of Michigan. And I know the three of you represent those clerks as well as the counties that you serve. So thank you for the work that you do and for hanging in there for the people to make certain that their voices are heard and their votes matter and they count. Now, having said all that, what in the world is going on with the election system this year? What's happening? And it's getting really confusing. What 80% of people have, with redistricting, new areas that they might have to find out where they vote and how to vote. So somebody talk to us.
So we've had a lot of change over the past several years. Proposal 3 of 2018 really changed the landscape in Michigan. So everybody has a constitutional right to vote by absentee ballot. And we're finding here in the city of Lansing and many places that more and more people are taking advantage of that. 2/3 to 3/4 of the people who vote are voting by mail or coming into our office ahead of Election Day. Mm-hmm. We're protecting that, and we've had really no changes in law in Michigan since then. The governor has vetoed several things that would have had some impacts on that. So things are pretty stable right now in Michigan. But as you said, everybody's district for everything is changing.
Right.
The lines, the congressional districts, county commission, all the way up and down the ticket is changing. So everybody pretty much in the state is going to get a new voter information card that has your new districts for Senate and House and all the various things. And many people are going to be voting in a new location. So these are all very important things. So make sure you watch for that card.
Absolutely. So please pay attention because voting is our constitutional right. And I feel very passionate about this. People have died for people to have the right, for a lot of folks to have the right, for women and others to have the right to vote. So we don't want to take this lightly and miss these deadlines and miss this opportunity. But 5.5 million people voted, one of the greatest turnouts ever. 3.3 million, I think, voted absentee in the last. And so now even getting an absentee ballot could, not yet, but could potentially change. So talk with us first about what people need to know. You know, you said they're going to get a card in the mail. Is that statewide? Is everyone's going to get a card in the mail telling them where to vote and how to vote, where to vote, and how to cast their ballot?
Yeah, so the local clerks are responsible for sending out those voter ID cards. But if an individual happens to not receive it or files it in the wrong file when they receive it, they can go to www.michigan.gov/vote and check their voting record, and where they vote and what they're voting, their polling location, if their absentee ballot has been requested, if it has been sent, if it now has been received by the local clerk. All of that can be checked online if people are comfortable.
So that's their GPS system for their...
Right. So it's checked in by the local clerk. So I would certainly encourage your viewers to go to that website, visit that website, and check their voting status, make sure their address has been updated, maybe they've moved or downsized, and make sure that they have requested their absentee ballot. Find out when it's been sent or when it should be sent. You can see that. And then make sure it's been received by the local clerk as well.
And if they don't see it on there, should they ask for another one, or should they just call their local clerk?
They should contact their local clerk immediately.
Okay, all right. Now, you mentioned, Chris, that in 2018, there was a constitutional amendment that gave everyone the right to vote and to vote absentee. That's being challenged a little bit now, right, Justin? It's being that in terms of some of the petition drives that are out there and how that could impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Proposal 3 in 2018 passed overwhelmingly here in Michigan, and I think it's no secret that people want to have that option and that choice to vote by mail. And I think one of the challenges that we've had in the election administration level, right, is that we've had this set of laws that's kind of been set up for the old system and the old way of doing things, where you used to have a reason. There was kind of a smaller subset
Right.
of the population. And so now we're looking at, we have to change our infrastructure and the way that we're doing things and the way that some of these laws are set up to accommodate this constitutional change, because it's in the Constitution. It's not going away. And I think that's an important thing for voters to realize too. I mean, the vote by mail process, I believe, is here to stay, and people appreciate that. But I do think that we need some changes to help us as election officials make sure that we're serving our voters in the best way that we can with this new system.
Absolutely. So people are, we talked to a lot of particularly older adults, and those are the ones who vote. That is the largest voting population. The boundaries have changed. There's a threat they may not have the same drop boxes that they had before. The access is much more challenging now. So what do voters need to know, about access, and why is it changing, and what's the issue that we're trying to solve? What's the problem that's trying to be resolved with all of this? You're looking at me like, Paula, you know the answer, but
for many, many years in Lansing, we've had 2 drop boxes, and in 2020 we added 13 additional ones. So we have 15 drop boxes throughout the community, safe, secure, locked, checked daily, and people have concerns about that, and I don't understand the concerns, because to me, you could live out in the country and you put it in your flag up on your mailbox, and that's a ballot drop box too. And those blue boxes that the post office owns are all drop boxes too, and they're trying to regulate a certain kind of drop box and not all of them, when they've actually been found to be very safe and secure. So, I'm fighting to keep those drop boxes open, as are both of our associations, the local clerk association and the county clerk association. We're all fighting to protect those voter rights.
And that's important for anyone, but older adults, parents with children as well, to be able to have ease of access to put their ballots in a drop box that's in their neighborhood or not too far from their community. If I, Paula Cunningham, want to get an absentee ballot, tell me what I need to do. I don't even know where to vote right now, but if I wanted to go and get an absentee ballot and maybe drop it off, what do I need to do? Step 1 would be?
Fill out an application.
Okay.
So a misconception is that people are just mailed ballots. That does not happen in the state of Michigan. In the state of Michigan, you must request an absentee ballot, and that is a form.
Okay.
With your signature, which is sent to the local clerk, not the county, but the local clerk, and that city or township clerk will then accept your application, compare the signature on that application with the signature that is in the qualified voter file. And then when it is time, they will send you a ballot. And you will receive that ballot. You will hopefully vote that ballot quickly and send it back. You could send it back in a drop box, by mail, or in person. But it must be in the possession of the local clerk by the close of polls on election day. Okay. Now keep in mind, when you send that ballot back, on the back of that ballot is a place for you to sign again, right? And you must sign it again. And again, your signature on the envelope is matched with the signature that is in the qualified voter file assigned to you.
Okay. And so to get that absentee ballot, I need to go online or call?
It's a written request.
It's a written request, so I have to put it in writing. Do I have to go in? Can I go into the Secretary of State's office or the clerk's office, or and get one there as well, right?
Well, it would be your local clerk, because we're the ones that have the ballots. We issue the ballots. Most of us mail an application. If you're on, we have an automatic mailing list, and we mail you an application, so it's pretty easy for you to fill out and send back. You can also go to the Michigan Secretary of State website and do an online application, as long as you have a Michigan driver's license or Michigan state identification. You have to fill in some information, and then they, as Clerk Byram said, you have to sign it. But what they do is they magically put your driver's license signature right onto the application and email it to us. So it's a safe, secure, really quick, convenient method. So you can do it online. You can print a paper copy off from a website, or you can, if you've signed up to be on that automatic mailing list, you'll probably get one in the mail.
Do I have to do it for both the primary and the general?
That's a good question.
So some clerks are doing dual applications for August and November. I think the first thing you should do is contact your local clerk and ask to be added to their permanent absentee ballot application list, which means you'll be sent an application to request a ballot. But you really have to look at that application and make sure it's for the August primary as well as the November general.
And so what are the qualifications or criteria for being on a permanent absentee ballot application list?
The only qualification is that your local city or township clerk has such a list. Majority of the local clerks do, but that's the qualification, that your local clerk must maintain such a list.
And that sounds super easy. I love this, a process that we've used for a long time with the 15, 16, 17 drop boxes, et cetera. However, there are some petitions out there now that would change that, right? That are being circulated, and that could all change even for the primary or for the general election, at least for the general election this year, right? In terms of being required to put your social security number and or your driver's license number on that absentee ballot if that petition drive is successful, and it's a big if, please, big if, it's a big if the legislature votes that into law. That could change either this year or next year.
It could change for next year. It's pretty unlikely to be for this year because while the legislature with an initiative law, they can immediately pass it without the governor having the ability to veto it. There's still a thing in our Constitution that they have to get two-thirds vote for it to take immediate effect.
And
otherwise, it's next April.
Okay.
And I don't think there's two-thirds support in the House or the Senate to give this immediate effect and have it impact 2022. So going forward, if that could come to be that you have additional requirements.
Go ahead, Justin.
I was just saying, I do think that's a good point, because really something that voters should realize is we've had a lot of changes, as Clerk Swope was saying. There have been, over the past couple of years, significant amounts of change in our election law and in some of the processes that we use. But really, for this election cycle, for most voters, I don't think they're going to experience a whole lot of additional change. And so, to Clerk Swope's point about, some of the changing rules surrounding absentee ballots or voting, we may see that in the next cycle. But I think something important for voters to recognize too, there are a lot of great options for exercising your right to vote. The drop box option is still there, and a very good point. I mean, we have 153,000 blue drop boxes that are maintained by the post office across the United States. We also have the option of walking into your local clerk's office to deposit a ballot. And I think what's really important with that too, because we're always trying to balance security and access, right? That's always the line that we have to walk as election administrators and really as a society, hopefully, right? We want those things. So we want our drop boxes to be secure, and they are. We're also checking the validity of the signatures on those ballots, as Clerk Byram had mentioned. We're ensuring that once a ballot is received, that it's marked as such in the system. And so a voter can go online at any point, michigan.gov/vote, and say, was my ballot checked in? Was my ballot received by my clerk? And so before Election Day, you have the option to do that.
You mentioned the word security, and that's something that we also talk about a lot with older adults, and how vulnerable they can be to identity theft, to fraud, to having your identity stolen. Michigan was like number 3 in the country for identity theft. It used to be number 1, so we've come down a little bit. So we AARP really tries to help people protect themselves. And one of the things that we've been saying for almost 50 years is don't give folks your social security number. Don't even give them your driver's license number. We've talked to actually have an ambassador for AARP who was convicted of 39 felony counts and went to prison. And now he works for AARP as an ambassador, and he worked for the FBI or the CIA because in 11 to 15 seconds, he could steal your identity, go into your HELOC, go into your bank account, go with just using the last 4 digits of your social security number. So you're right, the vote's been secure, you've gone through audits. So why is this now being pushed? I mean, what's the reason behind wanting to add that particular information? If petitions are signed, if it passes, what's the reason behind that?
So I believe the reason behind it is to make it more difficult to vote. I mean, honestly, that's my belief, because the proposal does nothing to make our elections more secure. Nothing, and it doesn't offer anything that the clerks associations have requested. So I believe the intent behind this is to make voting more difficult or less accessible. And it is terrible that that is what the proposal is, but that's where we are. And that's why I stand opposed to that proposal, because I believe that all qualified registered voters should be afforded the opportunity to exercise their right to vote.
You said that if this is passed, I know we want to talk about, I'm going to shift it back to talking about this election cycle, but if this passes and the petitions go through and it doesn't take effect until the next election cycle, can anything be done in between there to change it, or is this the time that people need to make certain they
There is a proposal also being circulated that would be a constitutional amendment that would actually kind of block some of the things on the proposal you're talking about and enshrine some of those protections into the Michigan Constitution. So, I'm an advocate for that one, and it's done by the same people who did Proposal 3 of 2018, some of the same groups. They're calling it Promote the Vote 2, which is what they called 2018. So, I think signing that petition, getting that on the November ballot, and passing that one will go a long way to protect our elections in the future. And it will add some additional things that many states have that Michigan doesn't, including true early voting. With our absentee voting, even if you come in person to the clerk's office, your ballot doesn't get opened or reviewed until election day, and you cannot see it go into a machine. The only way to see your own ballot go into a machine is to vote in person at your polling place on election day. This constitutional amendment would allow and require early in-person voting where you could go ahead of election day, put your ballot in that tabulator, see it be counted.
That's
which
nice.
would make our elections more secure.
And you could get home at night on election day before 48 hours after the election, right?
Well, let's
no
not
wonder you're
go that
pushing
far
that,
yet.
right? No
It would be
wonder you're
lovely.
pushing
It would be
that.
lovely,
Yes,
yeah.
but that
And
just makes sense, right?
I do think it's important to offer perspective on, on the security aspect of the election. I mean, we a vast majority of Michigan residents support photo ID. We have a great photo ID law in the state of Michigan right now. So if you walk into your precinct on election day, you're going to be asked for a photo ID. If you don't have a photo ID, which is a very, very small percentage of folks participate in the process in precinct on election day without a photo ID. But there is a process that you can go through, and you can sign a legal document and still vote. But I also think it's important that as we look at the system, we have that balance between people have to trust this process. And it's very important as election administrators, but as citizens, we have to be able to trust the system that we're using to choose our government. Currently right now, there's a federal ID requirement that requires someone to put the last four of their social or their driver's license number on a voter registration form that is mailed in. So if you're not coming in person to register to vote, those are some ID requirements that are already in place. And so I think it's important to note that we have those things that are in place that are kind of parameters, right? Security parameters around the process. But we have to also recognize that this is up to our voters. This is their access. This is their ballot.
Exactly.
And it's really important for them to choose how we go forward in the process.
And you're right, it's so critical that people think their vote counts and that it's the legitimate election and that, the results are the results of the people.
Right.
And I think some of the audits have proven that the results were the results of the people.
All of the audits have proven that. And the
recounts,
recounts, I mean, everything. When a candidate questions the results of an election, then they file a recount. And I know many communities throughout the state of Michigan did do recounts. And all of us did audits. We did the statewide audit. We participated in the pilot risk limiting audit. Some of us were lucky enough to be audited by the state auditor general. I mean, we have done audits, we have done recounts, and guess what? The results have not changed.
And that transparency is so important.
Yeah.
I mean, we welcome the audit, right? Like the legitimate audit of the election is very important.
Right.
And I think it shows that, our system, particularly in Michigan, we have a unique, more decentralized system than some other states as well. We have local clerks involved, we have the county clerk involved, of course we have the Secretary of State as well at the higher level, but we have a system that is decentralized, it is bipartisan, there are eyes looking at it from different perspectives, and it is run by trained professionals
That's
as well.
why I say congratulations, you all. You rock. I'm telling you, you do it right. So, yeah, I mean, what we have is phenomenal. And there are a lot of people who were involved with the 2018 constitutional change to get what we have today. So let's not lose it. And we have about a minute and a half or so left. Talk about timelines. What to get an absentee ballot, what are the timelines that people need? How long does it take? And then
We can accept the application starting 75 days before the election, so we're in that window right now.
Okay.
So you can submit an application for August and November to your local clerk, and generally the clerks will mail the ballot to you about 40 days before each election, and you have to get it back to us by 8 o'clock election night. So there's still plenty of time to get involved in this one.
Any last words?
Be careful what you sign. There are ballot proposals, one that promotes the vote, which will make our voting more accessible, and then one that's called Secure the Vote that will not secure our elections, and it will make access more difficult. So be careful what you're signing if you're approached to sign a petition, and know that petition circulators are not required to tell the truth.
Wow. I appreciate and respect each of you for the work that you do and your commitment to your communities, your townships, your counties. And on behalf of the 1.3 million people that we serve, we say thank you for making certain that we had a secure, safe election. And let's continue to make certain we have a secure, safe election by not changing anything.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being
Thanks,
here.
Paul.
Craig, thanks for being here today. So many people, myself included, we have annuities. What do we need to know during this market about annuities?
Well, the biggest thing is to understand annuities in general. They are a tool to get people from basically point A to point B, and are very good at generating levels of income. Sometimes annuities are utilized as an investment product, and in many circumstances, if it's used as an investment product, there are some levels of restrictions that can hold back that investor from doing something that they may want to do later on. Because with an annuity, you're having a contract with an insurance company.
Right.
And that contract, where you give them a certain amount of money, they're going to guarantee that you have a guaranteed income benefit, an enhanced death benefit, whatever that structure might be. And then inside the annuity, you can invest in a wide variety of investment products, growth products, value products, whatever it might be. The one caution that I have for those who are utilizing annuities is to understand what the riders are. So if they have a guaranteed minimum income benefit, they put on $100,000 into it and they're guaranteed 5%. Well, if the portfolio dropped 20% because they're invested in growth companies inside the annuity, they shouldn't be concerned, because if the portfolio is going to grow 5%, their income base starts at $100,000.
Okay.
But if the income benefit goes up 5%, it's going to be off the 105, not the lower value of the annuity.
Okay.
So from understanding what products that they have, if they're invested in growth products inside the annuity, the objective is to take advantage of that guaranteed minimum income benefit, because it's going to reset to a high water mark. So most folks who are advisors typically will utilize growth strategies inside annuities to take advantage of the income benefits or enhanced death benefits within the products themselves. But all in all, make sure that they understand and know what type of annuity they're in. Some are used to protect fully on the downside, but then when that happens, it limits the protection or basically capture of investments on the upside or growth of a portfolio. That's the caution that I have about utilizing an annuity as an investment product versus that of using it for particular riders that may benefit them during retirement and through retirement.
And how does age factor into those decisions?
Oh, well, that's a great question. Age basically will factor into it based on what their income needs are going to be. So, and quite frankly, the asset level that they have. I typically wouldn't be requiring clients to have better than 20% of their portfolio or 30% of their portfolio in an annuity.
Excellent advice.
So,
Thank you,
yeah,
Craig.
my
I'm so glad
pleasure.
you're here to get all this good advice. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Amy, thank you for being with us. You know, sometimes you go to someone's home, particularly an older person, you see a lot of hoarding and they kind of rummaging and everything is precious. Is that something that goes with certain types of illnesses, or why does that happen?
Well, actually, in 2014, hoarding was actually listed as a mental illness. So it's something that a lot of times people are hoarding because they're afraid. They aren't feeling a sense of love that they feel that they should be getting. So they're finding other ways to do that. With people and hoarding, and then rummaging also comes through that. So if you'll notice, some people sometimes come visit and they're going through your drawers and going through things and trying to find things that they don't know what they're looking for. You kind of just have to again, meet them in that moment, and you're not trying to get them to change that behavior, so to speak, right then, but you want to kind of redirect, like, let's look at over in here and let's go see what this is, or hey, let's go have a cup of coffee, or something to drink, and just to kind of remove that idea that they need to do that. The other thing that you want to also consider too is that you can go in after the fact with hoarding and pull those items out. If you start to see that there's one particular thing that they're doing, like I said, you can make sure you have extras on hand, just to, here's some extra keys, here's some extra remote, here, they don't know it's extra, but they just know that it's
That's
theirs.
there. And so take the real things away and let them just go ahead and do whatever they do with that.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to know. It could be a mental illness. So,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Amy Trin. I'm here with Dr. Joshua June from Great Lakes Center of Rheumatology. So today I'm going to ask Dr. June some questions. I've noticed that in my practice, some patients are telling me that they're avoiding going outside and they are making an exception to come to our appointments, but they also don't want to go to some other doctor's appointments. What do you feel is the impact of that?
I think that for good reason, people are afraid of COVID and afraid of getting sick. And a lot of ingenious methods have been used, such as using telehealth and online shopping, and basically keeping at home as best they can has helped people to avoid large crowds and keep themselves safe. But I think it's extremely important to maintain your relationship with your primary care and specialist so that you get routine checks, your blood pressure is under control, your blood sugars are under control, your routine bodily maintenance, so to speak, colonoscopies, to make sure that you're protecting yourself with preventative health care. This is more important for your long-term health goals than necessarily just staying at home or avoiding these necessary visits to your physician. So my recommendation is protect yourself by getting the vaccine if it's right for you. Wear a mask when you go out, and make sure that your doctor's office, which they should be wearing a mask and cleaning all surfaces as well. This has already been shown to be a very unlikely place to contract COVID or other diseases. So my recommendation is that they continue maintaining their health as they would have before COVID.
Voting is a constitutional right, financial security, taking care of your loved ones. All those are things that we want you to be aware of on Real Possibilities. Thank you for watching today.